Well, I like making food that tastes good, and I don't even mind making food that tastes bad. But if I had to choose, I think I'd pick the former. So if you want to know how to make it a little bit better, but maybe not quite as good as it maybe could be, I think that you should listen to what I'm talking about. And if you learn a little something from this, well, I hope it served a purpose, and hey, that's what we're here for. Good, better. Nailed it. Woo! Hello, and welcome to the Cook Better podcast. My name is Corey, and thank you so much for listening. I realized that, as I listened back a little bit to the couple episodes before, and I've kind of like come in, you got this crazy, some might say annoying, but more goofy and upbeat intro song that I did, and then I come in a hello, like it's an NPR type of thing, and that's not my personality really, but maybe it is because that's the way I come in every time, but that's not what I intended to be. And so I gotta be a little more upbeat when that intro shuts off and I start talking, so I'm going to try to make it sound a little more upbeat. And it is when I've got my brother in the room or, whatever, and we're having a conversation. But when it's just me basically talking to myself, I just don't get as animated as I normally would in everyday conversation. So anyway, welcome. Thank you again for listening. And today, I'm just going to start out with, we're going to talk about roast chicken and maybe a few other things here, but I'm going to start out with, I'm a little bit sad today. And, so I just wanted to talk about that. We're going to go into that area. And it's not, maybe it's not real sadness. In a way it is. Excuse me as I cough. Yesterday was my birthday. And my 38th birthday. And that's not why I'm sad at all. That doesn't bother me in the slightest. Growing older, it's just another day, to be perfectly honest. But, birthdays are fun. And because it was my birthday, my kids gave me cards. And my son had a card that had... you open it up, and it was one of those song ones, very loud and crazy, and he thought it was hilarious. And so, and the fact that he thought it was hilarious and was laughing as soon as I opened it made me laugh, even even though I normally may not have, but just because he enjoyed giving it, and so that was really cool. The sadness came in when I got the bill from the restaurant that we went to. We went out to eat, obviously, and it was the food was good. It wasn't that the food didn't taste good. And we went to I'm not going to say the name just because I don't know. I don't want them to take this negatively. It's not negative against the restaurant itself, but anyway, we went. There's not a lot of choices where I live, and I live in more of a rural area. And if we don't want to have to drive at least 20 minutes. We've got like 3 choices by my house, and we've just got a puppy. When we get February 1st, we got a puppy, and my wife and I both worked all day yesterday, so the dog was in the crate for a lot of the day. So we didn't want to go, take a long drive to go get something to eat and put her back in the crate for a long time again. That's just not. I feel bad enough as it is having her in the kennel or in the crate in the house for as many hours as we do. And so I definitely don't. But anyway, so we went out to eat. The food was fine. It was good. I would say it definitely was good. It wasn't bad. And I got like a buffalo chicken wrap, and my wife got a wet burrito, and my son got pizza. And I will say the portion of the food that you get with a kids menu at this place is, a much better quantity for a 10-year-old and a 9-year-old than some places. So the amount of food was good, and was fine. But man, I do, the bill comes, and I had a beer, and the kids had a soda or pop or Coke, whatever, and but still, the bill came to like $62. And then, I'm doing the math on it. Man, the service was pretty slow. I don't really blame the waitress because the place was packed and there was only 2, maybe 3 waitresses there, and a little bit understaffed for the amount of people that were in there. But that's not the waitress that was serving us. That wasn't her fault that there wasn't somebody else there. So I don't want the time we had to wait to. I don't want my tip to reflect that, So leave a 20% tip, and by the time we walk out of there, we're walking out for $75 for one meal. No take home. I mean, the quantity wasn't enough where we were taking home food. Like I said, the food was fine, but it's like $75. And and like I said, I had a beer in there that was probably $8 because the moment you step into a restaurant, the cost of that kind of thing shoots through the roof. Drinks is where they make their money, man. But yeah, so it's $75, and I'm more conscious of what groceries cost. My wife and I have been married now for 18 years, and it's my wife is very good with money. I am not good with money, and I personally have never paid that much attention to what we buy. That doesn't mean we've had money to buy whatever we want. It's usually my wife would, especially early on in our marriage, my wife would call me and say, you cannot put gas in the car at all today or buy anything because we have $2 to our name right now until one of us gets paid and that kind of thing. But I just am oblivious to the finance side of things. That is a gift that my wife has been given, and or not only that, but one that because of that I haven't really dug into it, and I need to because it's a lot of pressure on her to be constantly watching herself and me because I'm not paying attention. I say all that to say, recently I've been like, when I go grocery shopping, I take the receipt and I'm entering it into an Excel spreadsheet and comparing ingredients and what they cost and what my meals cost when I'm making them at home. And just to see, how much does it cost every time we have spaghetti? What does a grilled cheese meal cost? And what does burgers cost? And roast chicken that we'll talk about today. And then, those like Chipotle style burritos. I think I had said that was around $21 or $22 for the 4 of us with leftovers for the next day. But so when I think about that, and that's just Chipotle burritos, that I talked about a couple episodes ago. If you haven't tried those, try making them because they're so good. And that is, like I said, that was definitely under $25 for that whole meal. And so it's just like, man, I paid $75 for a meal that was okay. And, excuse me, I'm coughing up a storm here. And so it's just kind of frustrating because it's like, man, I could have three good meals for the price of this one meal that was okay. But, when it's your birthday, you want to go out for dinner, and it is you do pay a little just to have that experience, and I'm okay with doing that every once in a while. It's just, man, it just kills you to have kind of a mediocre meal for 3 times what a really good meal costs. But, so that's why I'm sad. I'm not sad. I'm not sad. I'm not crying. You're crying. It's just one of those things that is just a little bit frustrating because I want to support businesses in the area where I live, but I also want to spend my money on food that's good and whatever. So that's where I'm going to leave that alone. That's where I'm at today, though. And. Maybe you can. I'm sure everybody can relate to that. If you're, that's where the argument of, I can't. Eating good for you food is too expensive and stuff like that. Like I said, this restaurant wasn't a chain restaurant, but I'd say, the type of food you'd get at a Applebee's or something like that. But it's a more locally owned, so a burger is $14 or whatever, something. That price range. at least for here in Michigan and where I live, that's average. Yeah, not expensive place to eat, but not crazy. But, if you're doing takeout or you're doing, I have never once done the Uber Eats thing or whatever, but I know a lot of people do that. Maybe that's because I don't live in a big city or whatever, so I don't use it as much or at all, to be honest. But I hear of, people talking about getting this and that, how can you even argue that making the food yourself is more expensive than doing something like that? When when you can make an entire meal for 4 people and have leftovers for the next day for $21, I mean, I can't even go to McDonald's for 4 people for that amount. If I go to McDonald's for 4 people, that's about $40 conservatively, So I think that argument, especially nowadays with the price, not going to get into the whole politics of it, but with the minimum wage is getting, the argument about that getting raised, that's fine, whatever. But, the food cost goes up there just to maintain that. These, especially at the bigger companies, they're not going to eat that cost. They're going to pass it on to the consumer because they know that we're addicted to that food and that quick, I can just drive through and grab it. I guess I'll pay a couple more dollars because I don't want to waste my time making food for myself. So anyway, this going on tangents here, but I think you know what I'm saying. That argument of cost, eating well, eating not necessarily even healthy, but eating better foods and everything. That whole argument of it being cheaper to eat garbage, I think, is kind of going by the wayside a little bit. It's not that argument doesn't hold as much water as it used to. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think so, but I wouldn't be saying it, I guess, if I didn't believe it. So anyways, let's and I just ramble for a while. I'm going to get into, let's talk about some roasted chicken. And roasted chicken is not one of those meals necessarily that I think this last month, for whatever reason, I'm in Michigan, like I said, and we're coming at the tail end of the winter here, and it's starting to get spring. The weather's warming up, but over the last few months, it's been cold and snow and whatever. And a roast chicken, there's just something about it that's just a comforting meal on a cold day, kind of like a soup or whatever. But that roast chicken just is good, and I think we've had it, like once a week for the last month at least. Part of that is because it's really easy, and there's not a lot of ingredients as opposed to some of the other things that I make, where I've got to make a sauce and I've got to make rice, a sauce, and then cook the protein that I'm using, and then whatever else might be involved. A roast chicken is a pretty simple meal, and doing it simple will give you a great finished product. You don't need to get insane with it. Now, and that was loud. But roast chicken. So you can either do it. You can do it a couple different ways, and I will do it a couple different ways. I might do the whole chicken and roast that, or I might do just chicken thighs. I don't really like roasting just the chicken breast. I'm sure it would be fine. I just prefer a chicken thigh. And the place that I go and buy my chicken, I think I'd mentioned in a previous episode, I've got a local chicken place, Otto's Chicken, and that's where I've been buying it. Excuse me, my headphones are falling off, so I'm monkeying around here. It's kind of hard to wear a hat and headphones at the same time. All right, hat's going away. Okay, I'm back. I've been buying our chicken from Otto's, one, because it just seems to be a cleaner product. So that cleaner product, a chicken breast shouldn't be almost 3 inches thick on a breast. It just isn't natural. You know what I mean? And so I've been buying my chicken from Otto's, and I'm sure no matter where you're at, you can find a local place. If not, whatever. If you've got a Walmart close, and if you're making it it's still going to be better than whatever fast food. But I'd challenge you to maybe find somebody that's doing a little better job with the chickens than some of these factory farm chickens that we're getting at the grocery store. Anyway, I'll do it with I like chicken thighs. Bone in, skin on. That's the cheapest way to buy it. And I love a crispy chicken skin. I think especially in roasting chicken, you're really doing yourself a disservice by getting boneless, skinless, anything, thighs or legs, whatever, because that chicken skin is like the best chip, tortilla chip or best potato chip. You know what I'm talking about. It gets crispy, and it's just got all that flavor on there from however you season your chicken, and it's just so good. So I always get the bone in, skin on thighs, and where I go, 4 thighs is about right around $3.50 a package. And then anytime I'll do it, I'll do 2 packages. That's 2 pieces of chicken for each person in my family. And, so that we're talking $7 into the meat portion. And where I get the chicken, if I buy a whole chicken, they're a little bit more expensive. I kind of did the math on them one time, and it's not adding up to being as cheap as I would like it to be to make it worth buying the whole chicken personally. Because at this place I go, they're right around like $13 for a whole chicken. And that might be a great deal. I bought a few chickens and I broke them down myself. But each chicken you get 2 breasts, 2 thighs, 2 drumsticks, or whatever, the legs and the wings. The wings aren't that big. And I started doing the math on what those pieces come individually, and it's almost a better deal just to buy them individually from the same place. The only downside is you don't get the bones and the carcass to make a chicken stock. My last attempt at a chicken stock was an utter failure. I think I talked about that. And I spent 5-6 hours simmering bones and some leftover meat and bones that I had put in the freezer, and then some onion and pepper and all the stuff to make a good solid chicken stock. Put them in the jars, and then I had done all the things I was supposed to do. Obviously, I did something wrong, but I think I put them in the freezer too early and didn't let the stock in the jars come completely to room temperature, and I had put them in the freezer. And got up in the morning and every one of the glasses was cracked. And I did leave the lid loose at the top, but it still cracked every one of my 5-quart jars that I had filled up. So that was 6 hours wasted. But I learned something there, I guess, and hopefully next time that won't happen. But that's the only downside, is that you don't get that carcass. And if you're like me, sometimes that'll hang out in your freezer until somebody asks you why in the world the chicken bones are still taking up space in their freezer, kind of like the old bananas when you don't make banana bread. So, that you always promise you're going to save those old bananas to make banana bread, and finally you get around to it. But anyway, that's kind of where I'm at, though. I'll take I just like a chicken thigh. So a lot of times I'll just do that on its own. Now, I'd said also in a previous episode that I've got a roasting pan now that I commandeered from my mom. And I haven't bought her a replacement one yet, or bought myself one and given hers back. But I have found that roasting pan to be very useful. I think that it's definitely a good investment if you're on the fence about purchasing one or not, because it really can be used for quite a few different things. And roasting in this case is what I'd use it for. And they're nice because they have those tall sidewalls, so you can put a lot of things in them. So my main ingredients, if I'm roasting chicken, is I'm going to have the chicken itself. Obviously, that's a pretty integral part. But and then I'll have potatoes as well. Now, the potatoes can be whatever you want to use, or whatever you've got to kind of finish up. If you've just got like a few things left, or half a bag of potatoes of any kind or whatever, you could do sweet potatoes if you wanted. You do Idaho potatoes or any kind of potatoes. Literally means any kind of potatoes. But my preferred ones are those small little fingerling type potatoes. They're just nice to eat. They're soft. I've heard them described as a buttery texture, and when I heard that, I kind of like, well, that's a weird way to describe it, but it's true. It's soft and almost creamy. It's the inside. The skins are usually on those a very thin skin, and a russet potato's got, a heavier duty skin to it. So, but if I was using a big potato like a russet potato or whatever, I would probably definitely cut it up just to make sure the potato got cooked through. Because anything under, bigger than like a 1 inch diameter or whatever, 1 inch thick, or even maybe a little smaller than that, is going to take quite a bit of time to cook. And it'll probably, the chicken itself doesn't take that terribly long. So you want to kind of bring that down in size, your potatoes, just so that everything's done at the same time. And preferably with potatoes, the nice thing is they can be a little overcooked and it's still going to be fine. Obviously, the chicken, that is not the case. That needs to be cooked completely. So I'll do potatoes, and then, good thing, too, if you got half an onion sitting there from, that you need to burn up, a bag of carrots that need to get used up. And that's kind of what I use this meal as, is it's just a great way you can take any vegetable you've got, really, and just burn it up. And if you're going to the grocery store with the intent on making it, then, you're buying stuff specifically for it. That might be a different story, but it can go either way. Either clean out the fridge type meal or a plan for it type meal. But so I'll typically have carrots, potatoes, and onion, and that's your typical roasted chicken meal with the potatoes or whatever. Now, if you, what was I going to say? Yeah, like I said, you can use any vegetable in there. I don't know. That's kind of usually what I've got on hand. You could throw some Brussels sprouts in there, or whatever. So that's pretty simple, right? I mean, we're talking a relatively cheap meal here, and there's not a lot to it. And this is one that I've had more recently because I buy chicken. I buy quite a bit of chicken. And I've always got that in the house. When I go to the store to get it, I get enough for probably 3, maybe 4 meals, and then I put it in the freezer, whatever I'm not going to be using within a few days. And then that way I've always got it, and it's a good way to do it. It saves, you always got a protein at the ready. I did not shoot a deer this year, so I've got no venison. And then I was doing some work in my basement and tripped the GFI on the outlet, and my freezer thawed out. So the ham that I had, the pork that I had, luckily and very thankfully, there was only about 20 pounds of meat in there. And it was all a gift, which is unfortunate from the company I work for, but that all got ruined, and thankfully that was all that was in there. But so my freezer's pretty empty. I'm buying a lot of meat if I want to eat meat, and so I like to buy a fair amount at a time just to save on the amount of trips I have to do, and then I know I've got something if I'm thinking about it during the day and I can't figure out what I want, anything to do with chicken, I know I've got the chicken. And like I said, the vegetables are vegetables. It's always good to have potatoes around. You can do mashed potatoes. You can do fried potatoes and onions or something if you're doing some, as a side with a meal. Or you can do these roasted potatoes, or you can do, and you've always got onion. And you can use any onion. Throw red onion in there, white onion, Vidalia, or Spanish. It doesn't really matter. They're all going to be good. I like everything in big chunks, though, if you're roasting. And put that in there. Now, for me, I do a pretty simple prep as far as seasoning on my chicken. I'll have it out. I get everything room temperature, it's all thawed out, and pull it out, and I put just salt, pepper, garlic, and season heavily. There's nothing worse than, there's so many videos on Facebook Reels or whatever, and people won't make sure you put your salt and pepper, and then it's like nothing. And maybe they got, sodium intake issues and you can't do it. I've seen way too many cooking videos where real chefs will say a home cook, one of the biggest mistakes home cooks make is not properly seasoning the meat or whatever the protein is when they're cooking. And like I said, obviously you can't come back if you over salt something. You can't take it out. You always can add more. That's the good thing. But yeah, so I heavily season. You'll figure out the right quantity to where it's not going to be too salty. Nobody wants anything that's over salted, but season it, aggressively. And again, that's where buying your seasonings in the big bottles is a good way to go, or buying them from Dollar General. I don't know, the off-brand powdered garlic, garlic powder, are you going to be able to tell the difference? I don't know. I can't. But so that's what I'll do, just salt, pepper, garlic. If I'm doing a whole chicken, I will pat it dry and then season it, and then I'll cut slices of butter, like half tablespoon, so the tablespoon on the sticks of butter or whatever. I'll cut those like half tablespoon pieces and slide them under the skin, and you kind of separate the skin from the body or from the rest of the bird, and that also just kind of allows for a little airflow, additional airflow to help crisp up the skin. But salt, pepper, garlic it. Do whatever you want. A lot of people will do rosemary is the big one with chicken. That just goes well with chicken. So that might be something that would be an herb, but you can do any kind of herb that you want. And pop that thing in the, put it on a grate. You need a little grate, and a roasting pan will come with that to elevate it. Now, if you don't have a roasting pan, another thing you could do, if you got a cast iron pan, you can do that if you've got enough room. That would be a good option if you had, like more, like I was talking about with just the chicken thighs is more than the whole chicken. And you can just rest the chicken right on top of the potatoes and onions and everything. Set it right on top. But that airflow, one, gets heat, evenly distributed around the chicken. And again, it does help with the crispiness of the skin to have that air moving around as well. So it's nice to have it elevated. If you don't have a roasting pan, you don't have a rack, not a big deal. Just put it in something else and stick it in the oven. It's going to be fine. So I think that, there's no reason not to give it a try. And maybe your mom's got a roasting pan you can steal. If not, make do. You know what I mean? Goodwill and all thrift stores sell stuff too. You can find quite a bit there. But yeah, Pop, that's basically it. You layer your vegetables on the bottom of the pan. Now, I would season those as well. I take that back. That's not it. Definitely not it. You're going to get a flavorless situation there if that's it. But before you set your rack on or your chicken on there, olive oil, salt and pepper. You can do a little bit of garlic in there if you want as well. But at minimum, I do olive oil and salt and pepper. Now, a good trick for that is put it in a bowl and toss it all together. That way everything's evenly coated. Or a Ziploc bag works great too, and kind of shake it around. That's going to get every coverage on everything. Or just drizzle it over the top. And that's going to work. So season your potatoes and your onion and your carrots or whatever you've got in the pan there, and then you're putting it in the oven at somewhere around, I think right around 400 or something, and it's going to take 35 to 40 minutes is about it. So again, at 400, 425, we're talking about a short window, really. If you think about if you're doing a baked potato, you would have it in the oven for at least an hour at somewhere around 425. So that kind of guides you into what size your vegetables should be cut in. You want to make sure that they have the proper time to cook. And then you're pretty much done. You wait for it to come out or wait for it to be done. Make sure that skin's getting golden brown. And as long as you've got that golden brown skin on there, with chicken, definitely use that, the instant read thermometer and check, especially with a whole chicken, check the chicken breast, make sure we're hitting, 155, 160. You're going to have a little bit of cooking happening as the, it's going to continue to cook a little bit as it kind of rests. But if you're anything like myself and my family, we don't want to wait 15 minutes to eat. It's, you're pulling it out of the oven? All right, we're all sitting at the table, ready to go. Let's eat, So check your temperature, make sure that your meat is cooked properly. Again, you can go a little bit higher or a little bit higher on the internal temp with the thighs, and 170, 175 or something like that, and they're still going to be good. If you let it rest, if you can stand to wait, because your house is going to smell fantastic, and it's hard to have self-control in those situations, then you can, what am I thinking? Oh, just kind of give the time for the juices to set, and they're not going to spill out as much when you cut into the meat. And that's kind of that meal. That's simple. How simple is that? It's all in one pan. Unless you got a pan dirty doing the olive oil and stuff. But if you dump your potatoes and vegetables in the roasting pan first, then sprinkle your olive oil or drizzle your olive oil and the salt and pepper, then you can just shake it around in that pan. No need for another bowl or whatever. It's kind of like a dump meal, like the one pot dump meals. I've got a lot of little pet peeves, and there's nothing more that turns me off to a video on a recipe or cooking if it says just 3 ingredients or easy, like any on Pinterest or whatever. If I'm looking for a recipe, I completely ignore anything that says easy at the top, because all that means to me is that the person who's creating the recipe wants to make something, but they're lazy and just want to make, and maybe they're lying. They could be lying. Maybe it's really not that easy. But, it's just, I don't want to have the simplest option. I'm not looking to just get it done and be out of the, I want to get it done and great if something's done correctly and well, and it goes quick. There's nothing wrong with that. Or if it only requires 3 ingredients, that's great. There's not many foods, though, that only require 3 ingredients. Anyway, I say that to say that the dump meals, like one pot, whatever, and even a crock pot, yeah, it's good. But it tends to be everything in a crock pot. A lot of some of the meals just seem to be really sloppy, like a lot of cans in jars that we're opening and just dump it in there. And, you put a little bit of meat, and then we're squeezing a bottle of ranch and dumping a bunch of cheese and cream cheese and just a little bit of chicken for our buffalo chicken dip. And don't get me wrong, I love buffalo chicken dip, but it's just sloppy, and it's not cooking. Like I said, I like to cook. So just the thought of dumping everything out of a jar, and it's just heating. It's just reheat, or most cases reheating, because the stuff's already cooked. You're just warming it up. Dump it in a pan. I don't know if that makes any sense. You might agree with me. You might disagree. But yeah, this though, all that being said, this is very similar to a one pot dump meal. It's not going in a pot. It's going in a roasting pan, but it's, minimal dishes, whatever. And it's very simple. Minimal ingredients, and it is very easy. So I can just be a hypocrite and contradict everything I said for the last 5 minutes and tell you that is what this is. But we're using real food and whole foods, and our ingredient list is very minimal. Chicken's got chicken in it. We got potatoes, vegetables, carrots, onions. Those are all one ingredient things, right? And then salt, pepper, olive oil, garlic, or as opposed to all the things that we dump a can of cream, Campbell's soup mix into it and we end up with a meal with hundreds of things in it because of all the preservatives and all that stuff. I won't get on that right now any more than I already have, but it's a simple, clean meal. It's healthy and just tastes good, and it's something that you're going to have, a lot of these ingredients in your pantry or in your refrigerator or whatever anyway. So it really is pretty quick, about 40, like I said, as long as you've already got your chicken thawed out and you've thought ahead for that, which I rarely do, but if if your chicken's already thawed out, I mean, this is really at very most an hour. And like I said, 40 minutes of that is the chicken cooking all on its own while you're doing whatever else you feel like doing. So your prep time and whatever is only maybe 10, 15 minutes to chop everything up and throw it in the oven. That's quick, and you can get on to doing the more important stuff that, you know, we don't have time to cook real meals for our families, but, you know, we can sit on the couch and doom scroll Facebook for 2 hours every night, and that's not a problem. We just can't be in the kitchen, you know, for more than 45 minutes. Anyway, this is a little bit of self-reflection here, too, you know. That's why I wanted to talk these things through, because what's more important to do, honestly. So, anyway, roasted chicken. That's what I do to make that. Very simple. And I think that anybody who's made it too, that's why it's kind of a go-to meal. It seems like a Sunday dinner type of meal sometimes, like especially when you're doing the whole chicken, because it's like, man, that's real fancy. Or, you know, that's a real meal. On Monday nights, that's our grilled cheese night. You know, we're not going to make a roast chicken and potatoes. That's Sunday afternoon. But the cool thing is, if you're doing a whole chicken, that might be more chicken than you're going to need probably for one meal. Maybe not, but more than likely it is, depending on the size of your family or whatever. And so now you've got cooked chicken that you can use for quesadillas or burritos or whatever, or maybe even if you're going to make a chicken soup or something later in the week, you've got, you know, you might have enough chicken left over, or maybe you've got that roasted chicken and you've got, you know, a little bit left over, but now you only need to use like 2 chicken breasts to have enough to do your soup or your white chicken chili later in the week or even the next week. Although I wouldn't leave, you know, cooked chicken sitting in the refrigerator for more than a week after you've initially made it. But that's just, you know, there's options there then. We're going to definitely probably have leftovers with that. So definitely probably. But cost, where are we looking at? You know, I put the numbers together, and at least with my figuring on the last time that I was at the grocery store and I bought it, you know, I was looking at somewhere around, let's see, where did I land? It was $20.48. And that was with a whole chicken that cost $11.68 for that whole chicken. Now, I did look at like Walmart in the area where I live. You can get a whole chicken for $8.50, and that was an organic, you know, all the things, supposedly anyway. It says on the organic, free-range, cage-free. Apparently they just wild catch these birds in the woods. I don't know, with all the different things they've got on there. But anyway, so you can knock $3 off that total if you're getting a chicken from Walmart. The fingerling potatoes, those were more expensive. Those were $6 for this bag. Kind of a, you know, you're paying a little bit more, but I like them because you really don't have to do much prep with them as far as cutting them up. Not because I'm lazy and don't feel like cutting them up, but I like, you know, sometimes it's nice to have, they come with like potatoes that are purple or blue on the inside, and then some other potatoes as well. And so they were just nice. It all depends where you buy them. These ones happen to cost me a little bit more, like $6 for potatoes seems a bit insane, but that's what I got written down here. Probably one of those I'm like, oh, I need these, and grabbed them and threw them in the cart and didn't realize what they cost till I was at the checkout. It's too late. A red onion. I used red onion the last time I made it. That was 66 cents for red onion. Butter, I took a whole box of, you know, a box of butter or whatever and divided it by how much I used. That was 66 cents for the butter. Seasonings, it's hard to figure because you buy those and you shake out what you need, but roughly 30 cents for seasonings. Carrots were $1.19, and that came to a grand total of $20.48. Again, if you bought your chicken from Walmart, you could knock that down to $17.48. So obviously a filling meal, a good meal, a relatively healthy meal, and it was under $20. We'll just use my example. I paid $20. And last night I had an okay meal, maybe $75 when I paid somebody else to do the same thing for me. And I'll maybe take the beer out of there, so $68 or whatever. So yeah, it's just I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here and talking around in circles, but you know, making stuff at home is just it's just cheaper. It's easier on your wallet, and it's better. It really is better. That roast chicken meal was better than any of the 4 different entrees that we had last night, I can tell you that much. But I'm not saying I'm not going out to restaurants. I enjoy going out. It's nice to go out with my family and just spend some time in a different environment like that. That's always cool, and it's fun to do with friends, obviously. But the reality is that that's not a financially responsible way to have food. And I can say this, obviously, the same thing about fast food. That's why this Cook Better podcast started. That's why I enjoy cooking. And even when I don't enjoy the process of cooking because it doesn't seem, you know, maybe not to whatever night, it's not as fun, but whatever. It's necessary. I just bought pizza from Hungry Howie's. We always get Hungry Howie's. It's cheap. If we get pizza, it's like, again, one of the few places around me that that's even an option. But even getting 2 pizzas from there, the cost has gone up. Got a large pizza and a medium pizza with not anything crazy for toppings, and it was $34 for 1 large and 1 medium pizza. No breadsticks, no drinks. That's it. And yeah, it's just the cost of paying somebody else to make your food is just continuing to go up. And plan ahead and think about what you're going to make. If I took half or even a third of that roasted chicken and put it towards my maybe some chicken fajita burritos 2 days later in the week, now I've subtracted the cost of the chicken from the initial cook, and I've really cut down on my cost for those chicken burritos, and over the course of the week and then the month, my grocery bill, if you can look ahead, which is difficult to do, I get that, but if you can look ahead, then that just brings everything to a much, much more reasonable thing. Use the potatoes and all that, you know, divide it up between more than just one meal, and the cost per meal goes down significantly. So that's where I'm at. I had a good birthday, though. I really did. And I didn't get any sleep because our dog was up from 2 a.m. The little puppy was up from 2 a.m. Till I had to leave for work. So I'm a little bit tired at the moment, too. But that's okay. That's life, right? If that's the worst things I got to complain about, then I'm nothing but blessed, and that is definitely the truth. So I hope this helped with somebody. Maybe somebody's been nervous because roast chicken seems like it's an elevated meal for whatever reason. Put herbs on there if you want. You know, it looks all fancy with a nice golden brown bird sitting on top of a bed of some vegetables, but it's something that is easily done by any of us, and give it a try if you haven't been or haven't ever done it or you've been intimidated by it. It's going to be fine. The biggest and most important thing is that meat is cooked all the way through. So once that chicken's cooked, you're golden. In the worst case scenario, you shred it up and you put it in a quesadilla, which honestly is not a bad use of a roasted chicken either. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it. You know, if you got somebody that you like talking cooking with or whatever, I appreciate if you would share this podcast with them. Like, subscribe, all the things. I appreciate it. It goes a long way, helps me know. And comment. Let me know what you think. Maybe tell me to quit rambling so much and just talk about the thing that's on the title. I don't care. You can tell me whatever. Or maybe give me some ideas for chicken. Roasting the chicken I've only done for the past couple of months, to be perfectly honest. And it went awesome the first time I tried it. So you can do it and give it a try. Thanks for listening. I will